Hello, everybody. For those who have just joined us, welcome back to episode 3 of How to Start and Scale an SEO Agency. So, Kevin, hello. Guys, hi. For the first 5 minutes, we'll allow everybody to turn up and introduce themselves. So please, in the comments, we've got Anton managing and moderating the comments that are coming in. Please let us know, your name, whether you are an agency owner, where you're based. Say hello. So Sergey, oh, cool. So you're from Belgium, but you're based in the Philippines. Would actually be interested in hearing what your story is. That's pretty out of the ordinary. Kevin, well, I already know these answers, full disclaimer, but for the benefit of the audience, where are you from and where are you today?
So I'm in Oxford at the moment. I'm normally based in London, but yeah, kind of working from home instead today.
Yeah. For reasons I'm sure everybody in the audience is familiar with. So yeah, please do tell us also, chaps, whether you're working from home, whether you're working from the office, or where you're watching this from. It'd be pretty cool just to know. I know that we've got Sergey's turned up from Belgium and the Philippines. Guys, if you're wondering who in the heck I am, I'm Deepak. I'm based in London, and I'm at home right now. And this is also me. I know. Oh, where's the camera? There you go. Beautiful. Oh, here we go. So we've got Mazen. He's an agency owner based in Dubai. Dubai's cool. I've actually never been to Dubai. Working from home, good man. Have you done any work in? Has work or personal life ever taken you to Dubai, Kevin?
I actually judged the MENA Search Awards. I think last 3 or 4 years. So I went out there for the Search Awards probably 2 years ago now, not last year. Okay. But yeah, no, there's a lot going on there, so it's worth trying to make a trip if you can, for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Is it Taveen? You said India. Come on, India's a pretty big place. Where in India are you from, my friend? You can't say that. It's like me saying I'm from England. They'd be like, well, it's not very useful, is it, Deepak? So it sounds like Dubai was quite interesting. So you go out there regularly then, do you, for this particular award, or is it that you went out there once?
Oh no, I don't. I've judged the awards kind of for the last 3 or 4 years, but I've only been to the event itself once. But it's a nice reason to go out there. We actually co-hosted an event while we were there too. So yeah, it's a good community.
Okay. We'll come back to more of that. So we've got Christopher from Bloomington, Indiana, 7 med practice clients looking to learn how to scale once you hit 10 or 11. So guys, Chris, thank you, by the way. Please do put in, hello, Dustin as well. Please do put in, if you've got any questions, please do flood the actual YouTube comment bar with the questions you've got. Hey Greener, I'm gonna do my best to basically put Kevin on. There you go, Tavinder, New Delhi. Tavinder, I do actually. You can call me sir. I don't mind, sir. Maybe he was referring to you, Kevin.
I've been called worse.
Utkarsh, you can't say India, guys. You cannot just state the country. We want the country. We want the city. We've got 2 more minutes left before I start piling Kevin with questions. So we've got Hakan as well. He's a small agency in Long Island, New York, working from home. Good man, Hakan. So guys, if you're just joining, I'm here with Kevin. We're going to be talking about how to scale your SEO agency. I've got several things I'm really excited to ask Kevin about, but please do state your name, the city and country that you're from, as well as any questions that you've got. Remindable, good to see you, sir, that you're from Russia. Where in Russia would be cool to know. And whatever questions that you've got or whatever you're looking for from this webinar, we'd absolutely love to hear what it is that you're here for. Hello, Trevor from Waterloo in Canada. What about there, Kevin? Have you ever been to? I've never been to. I've never. I feel so less travel. Have you been to Canada? I've not even been to Canada. So.
I've been to Toronto, actually, which is very nice. So. It's a start.
Damn you, Kevin. Nutamon, if I pronounced your name right, I'll be proud of myself. Welcome. So we've got Bangkok, Thailand. So we've got what? We've had Thailand, we've had Russia, we've had India, we've had Volgograd in Russia. Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that reminder, Ball. And we've got Andreas from Athens, Greece. Okay. So we've also got Clemens from Vienna. Innovative strategies and opportunities to approach new customers in the market. Brilliant. So if you've got any specifics around, markets or anything like that, brilliant. Hey, Naveed. from based in Naveed. What are you doing in Saigon, Vietnam? Would love to know. Hello, Pedro. So, guys, I feel like a show host now. I guess I am a show host technically. Yeah, it's like Johan. You have to tell us where in Chile that you are from. Where in Chile are you from? Or is it Chile or Chile? Or I'm asking you now, Kevin. I'm not sure.
All right. No, I don't know either.
Yeah.
This is making me want to go on holiday,
Yes.
obviously.
Exactly. It's like, yes, we found a place that Kevin's not been to. Okay, guys.
Chile sounds good. Thailand.
So, everybody, we are officially 5 minutes into the start of episode 3 of How to Start and Scale an SEO Agency. And with Kevin Gibbons, for those of you who are logging in only to log out, as Anton has said, recordings will be available after, but please do stay with us because we want some live entertainment, and I'm sure so do you. So, Kevin, I wondered, is it Resignal or is it Resignal? Or is
Resignal.
Okay.
Yeah. I can get why I get why you'd ask that, but yeah, no, it's Resignal. Okay,
no, I just wanted to be sure. Okay, so Naveed's got an SEO agency based in Vietnam. Brilliant. So, Kevin, first of all, welcome. I had a lot of fun looking you up and looking up Resignal whilst I was doing a bit of a stalk before you came on. And, you know, guys, what I'm going to be asking Kevin a little bit about is briefly, I want to hear about the history of Resignal and your story in SEO. And then what we're going to do is rapidly move on to how you have and how some of our audience can ultimately start winning some of the corporate clients that, you know, you've had the pleasure of working with, still working with, or, you know, whatever fashion that may be. So briefly, I'd love to hear a little bit just about your background in SEO and then how you became an agency owner and kind of where you are today. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's definitely not an overnight thing. I started in 2003 back as a student at a web design agency, and got introduced to actually doing web development, but at a time where that agency was starting to offer SEO to its clients as kind of an add-on service. But I found that a lot more interesting than I did the web development side of things. And were you an actual developer at that stage? Were you developing, or what was your role within that agency at that time?
Yeah, so I was on a placement year, so I hadn't finished uni. I was on like the 3rd year of a course, and then the plan was to go back, which I did for the 4th year after doing 1 year at a design agency. And yeah, I did a mix of kind of like computing, business, bit of marketing, and I think what I mean, it's that stage of life where it's like you're learning what you actually want to do. So for me, web development it was interesting, and I enjoyed building websites, but what I found is actually,
you liked SEO.
the optimizing side it excited me more. I liked the fact that you could change something one day and then just see the impact that you can get the next. And I think actually having that web development my own website design, none of it was particularly great, if I'm honest, but it was enough that I could start building some sites, testing, learning, making some beer money essentially, and then building things up from there. So then when did the transition happen to full-blown kind of SEO agency owner? Because I presume at that point had you moved from that agency student into kind of building your own agency, or were you working within that agency and getting a handle for SEO, or what? Yeah, I did that for a year. I learned alongside this about kind of SEO and even affiliate marketing. I did quite a lot of AdSense stuff in the early days of just how to make some money from optimizing for popular keywords, and then it's almost like an arbitrage style model of just attracting the traffic and passing it through ads. And when I went back to uni, I was more hooked on doing that and probably spent more time on actually building my own websites than I did actual studies. But I think again it got me hooked. It was a initial insight, and again there's a lot of things I've realized before, and there's someone that I follow kind of online to do a talk, Tom Billieu, who's the founder of Quest nutrition bars. So incredibly successful guy, and he always talks about how you don't have a passion, you find it, because no one's passionate about SEO day one until you're good at it. So,
let's use that opportunity to ask the audience, guys, for all of the agency owners that are in the audience, or even within the space of SEO, did you fall into SEO, or did you go out and decide that you wanted to build an SEO agency? I'd love to hear from the audience as to that point, because I'm curious, because you fell into it. I fell into it and discovered that, you know what, I quite like this. So I'd love to hear from some of the audience what your experiences have been. Please continue, Kevin.
No, that's an interesting question, because I feel like I'm a generation that, it's nice by saying old, of you had to fall into it. No one knew what it was back then. Like, everyone was making it up as they go along, and you don't go to school and think. I heard someone recently saying that I think it's their daughter wants to grow up and be a YouTube influencer. It's kind of like, to me, that sounds crazy, because I don't even think computers were much of a thing when I was growing up. So
how old are you? How old are you?
38. So I mean, we did IT, and you could tell things were going towards kind of more computer-based things. But I mean, to say that you wanted to do SEO and at any sort of age, just would have been an alien subject.
And did you want to do Resignal then? I mean, did you, like, looking at it now, you know, I was reading up the company history, and you guys have done some, you know, there's a lot of awards that you've won, there's a lot of speaking that you've done, and there's corporate clients that, you know, you've had under your roster. Was that the vision when you started Resignal, or was it the case that I think I'm going to just, you know, open up shop, so to speak, and kind of see what happens?
Oh, in the early days, no, it's open up shop. And to be honest, as much as it feels like the right answer is, oh, yeah, no, I had this grand plan all along, it's gone perfectly. It would just be a complete lie. And also, I do think there's an element of, if I was to say, let's aim to, let's create an agency day one, I'd almost never start. I kind of feel like starting small, let's say, and I just want to learn some stuff and get excited about it.
And with your agency then, with that in mind, that you said that, you know what, let's just start. First 30 days, if you can cast your mind. Okay, so what year did Resignal launch?
Well, even then, I wouldn't even say we launched, because Resignal has been a rebrand of a previous agency that I had. Initially, I wouldn't even say I started an agency. I went freelance. I moved to Australia. I picked up a couple of clients that would pay me money for work at the same time. And a year later, at the end of a working holiday, I had enough clients and income that it was probably equivalent to what a salary in a job would be. So
let's focus on that space then, because I think, because I'm curious, one of the questions that we often get that I've seen on the last two shows was, so the Australia period. So what's interesting is the difference between when you consider the agency started versus someone listening being like, well, what I really want to know is, you know, that first client, because you're in Australia. Was your first client a local Australian that you met in a bar then, or was it someone who's based in the UK? Or do you remember how that kind of all played out?
Yeah, I did some web development for some people at the time, and then that led into SEO. There was army surplus clothing, so he had quite a good business, and he paid me an hourly rate that, to me, I mean, looking back now, it's probably not a huge amount of money, but when you're traveling and you need work, it was just a nice intro into, okay, well, I can do some web development, I can do some optimization, and then it led there. But yeah, I kind of feel like a lot of it was, I'm learning about where my skills are, and almost, I definitely, and even today, I wouldn't say I would follow the money. It's more where am I curious? What am I interested in? From there, the more you're interested in something, the more you work hard at it and you get better at it, which is kind of my point about, you don't naturally have a passion from day one. You try things, and then once you get good at it, you improve, because you have that level of interest. If you're not interested in it, you're never going to get better.
And what's your response with that in mind then to someone who thinks that, well, Kevin, I'm told more and more that I should niche. I'm told I should either be a WordPress SEO guy, or I should be a link building specialist, or I should focus on, like, how are specialisms something that someone who's starting out should be thinking about, or thinking about, if ever, in that way, or is it the wrong way to think about it?
I kind of feel like with this, I never like to tell people what to do. I can share my advice on this is what has worked for me. There's going to be, in my opinion, the way that's worked best for me is I've learned about a breadth of different things. So in the early days, I've done web development, I've done web design, I've practiced SEO, I've done paid search, so social media, etc., etc. And if I hadn't have tried those things, I wouldn't have figured out what it is that I'm really passionate about, where my skill set is, and where I want to go afterwards. And then I feel like that deep expertise in SEO has come off the back of seeing how the other elements work.
Yeah,
I feel like personally I'm stronger at SEO due to the fact that I have that breadth of knowledge.
Yeah,
but I would never be as experienced in it if I tried to do absolutely everything and spread myself too thin. So it's kind of, my view is, when you're starting out, try a bit of everything, dip your toe in. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to know where you want to focus.
Yeah.
But don't spread yourself too thin and try and do everything forever, because then you're kind of average at everything potentially, but great at nothing. And I think it's just been a kind of evolution of time, and where I've ended up focusing is kind of what I find that I'm good at. And then, I mean, as we get further down the journey in terms of an agency, where you attract clients is where you have case studies and wins,
absolutely,
etc. So it then snowballs from there.
So it does sound like there's been a meandering path, actually, with how things have played out. And it's interesting looking at some of the comments. So I know that Mazan, you said you fell into SEO. Sergey, you said you fell into it too. Naveed has a similar story to yourself, Kevin. He said he went from web development and then transitioned to SEO. Pedro fell into SEO. So I'm not seeing anybody. Is there anybody who said, I want to run, or I want to be an SEO, and they made kind of a career switch? If there's anyone in the audience that has done that, I'd like to hear from you. And Mr. Greener SEO, I feel like I've seen you on some of the other shows. I could be barking up the wrong tree, but do let me know if you were part of any of the other shows. But he has asked a question, which we'll take, which is, so Kevin, how big is your agency now? Well, there's 3 questions here, or rather 2 at least. So how big is your agency now? What's your answer to that? It's a bit of an awkward one, but a good one.
Well, there's different. I would answer this almost back with a question in some ways. I would say almost like the last year or 2, I've asked myself a lot of questions over, why am I doing what I'm doing? What does big mean? I mean, I'm that big. So I kind of feel like, actually, to answer the question as it's intended, we are a team that have grown from freelancer kind of rates up to kind of 1.5 million turnover. We've had a team up to the size of kind of 17 or 18 full-time people. We've now scaled back and are now kind of more of a hybrid of a core London-based kind of strategy account management team, and a network of content producers, freelance consultants. So we changed our model a little bit as well. And we've got less clients now than we would have had in the past, but we work with bigger brands now than we would have had in the past as well. So again, it's kind of, what's your definition of how far do you want to take things? What does success look like for you? That might not be the version that other people want to do either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Well, thank you for the question, Greener SEO. And dude, good answer, if I'm being honest. I like that, because you went directly to probably what he was asked, is that, Kevin, how many people do you employ? How much money do you make? and they're
Yeah,
always,
of course.
yeah.
But
Sorry, go
also
ahead.
it's kind of, I would just advocate, don't judge yourself against other people on those metrics, because you could be.
What's your opinion? The danger that people fall into when they run, like, you know, running when you're starting an agency. I think it can be very easily to be overwhelmed by looking at numbers like that, and it can, you know, if you so what's your advice to someone who is in, you know, Idaho, the United States, or you know, the outskirts of Bombay, India? What's your advice to someone who's thinking, oh wow, Kevin, that just seems like a world away to me?
A good piece of advice I had recently, which I really liked, is there's a model which is, I think it's minus equals plus. Someone has made a term for this, but the point is you want to have a longer term vision that you're working towards, but you also want to work alongside people that are on the same journey as you. You want to mentor people that are on their way up, and you want to talk to people that are kind of above, kind of ahead of the curve in terms of what you're doing. And I feel like, to me, it's always been good at, I've always been quite strong at having a longer term vision and knowing where we want to go and where we want to get to. If I'm honest, I probably struggled more of the day to day of what do we do right now, as opposed to where do we want to be in 3 to 5 years. And it's really important, I think, to have a mix of both. You don't want to just get stuck in the day to day and you end up on the treadmill, but at the same time, if all you're thinking is the blue sky picture sort of thing, you need to do the work to get there. So I feel like there's almost like a resetting. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And just keep continually moving that forward, and try to make it about your own story, as opposed to just an external expectation of what you should be doing.
So guys, if you're listening, I really like what Kevin said there about having your own story, about you know, being innovative to a degree, and also a big recognition that I think that you've made, which I quite like, is recognizing what your skill sets are and being conscious to that. And then I'm assuming you've probably got someone who's quite a good foil for you within the business, who's very operationally driven, who really loves the day to day, because it sounds like you're definitely like kind of big vision. And talking of big vision, we've got Clemens Zayler. I quite like this question, Clemens. If I wonder if Anton is furiously scrolling, thinking, Clemens, where are you, you bad boy? So Clemens, please do tell me where you're from, because I don't know if you did say where you're from. But Kevin, basically the question is, here we go, is look, I think, and this is a really good question. It's like, you know what, Kevin, because I get this question sometimes from people that ask me, like, Kevin, you know what, I ran a PPC campaign. I put $1,000 in, and you know what, I found a bunch of people that were kind of clicking on my ad, but they were just surfing the, you know, and there's still a big like follow-up involved. Kevin, I tried cold calling. No one wants to know anything about, you know, SEO. What can I do to, brilliant. There you go. You did tell me, Clemens, actually. I'm sorry, because I remember seeing that. Please don't leave. What's your advice for Clemens about, is there a strategy that you've got for landing, you know, the bigger brands that you work with versus landing, you know, the clients in Australia? What's your general thought on client acquisition?
My general thought is it's in many ways no different. It's potentially more of a mindset shift. And what I mean by that is what we're doing today to attract global brands that we're working with isn't that much different, to be honest, what we did 10 years ago with attracting local brands. And
what do you do?
Like it's showing. I've never really, I mean, my old agency did a certain amount of outbound sales, but to be honest, in terms of what's really driven growth of big clients, it's never been a sales-led approach. It's more to a certain extent marketing, but even then it's doing good work with people, being patient. A lot of our best clients have come from people that we've done a good job for. If you do a good job with a client, that client will remember it, they'll retain you. Sometimes people move around companies and end up, as time goes on, getting promoted into more senior positions. And And if you've done good work for them before, there's a good chance they'll rehire you somewhere else. That's worked very well for us as a tactic in the past.
So referrals, as well as, because it sounds like time in the game has been a big thing. It's been important that we've done good work, and we've done good work over good time. I mean, how long has, even in its original iteration, how long has Resignal been a company? Is it, Deepak, we started out in 2000, because when was it that you incorporated or started the business, so to speak?
It's 2012, really. We were called Blue Glass in 2012, but rebranded as Resignal in 2018. But yeah, really from 2012.
Okay, no, brilliant. And then so we've got two things there, guys. If you're listening, I mean, I love that. I mean, for me, one of the secrets that isn't a secret, but it's really annoying, is that do good work and kind of hang in there, and things do begin to happen for you if you're still around.
They do. And to be honest, as much as that sounds obvious, I think it took me a long time to realize that, because in the past, I was always, I'll speak at conference events, I'll write for, I mean, we had a very popular blog ourselves. I wrote for lots of e-consultancy very frequently. That worked well. Everyone was talking about us. We'd get a lot of leads off the back of our thought leadership. I'd still highly advocate that as a marketing tactic. However, what I realized is our most solid clients kind of come through relationships. So now it's kind of more, how do I reconnect with the people that I've known over a long period of time and understand what their challenges are, what is it that they're doing, how can we help them, kind of stay in front of mind, but also relevant to them. It's not just a one-way thing of let's publicize myself as much as possible. It's let's listen to them and let's build upon that, because it really ties in with the question that we've got here that I've just seen, Kevin. So Naveed, if you can bring that question up, Anton, Naveed Chowdhury, he's asked, because you talked about, you know, people that you've known being around and how, so the question that Naveed has got, Naveed Chowdhury, is what do you say to prospects who you know, you had, what do you say to someone that you pitched, you don't hear from them, or maybe they talked about working with you at some point in the future? Is there a process that you follow to follow up as such? Could you kind of answer, I guess, Naveed's question effectively? God, I'm really bad at that. Honestly, I feel like my strength is, it's more kind of the initial awareness. I mean, I'm a strategist at heart in terms of I will help people find a solution for their problem. I'll be very honest with them when I say, actually, I don't know if SEO is the right thing for you, or it's the wrong time to be focusing on that. And I found actually there's been a really positive reaction when I said that. I've had people that have come back to me before and hired us, and they've hired us because I've pushed them back for 12 months and said, you need to sort out your website, your CMS before you even engage with us, because that's the biggest thing you should be just take the money. And sometimes people do come back. So even if you don't hear back from people, sometimes if you're giving them the right advice, I always have the approach that in some ways you've never lost a pitch. Like everything that you do, nothing is ever lost forever. It's like if you give people the best advice you can, they may have taken advice that doesn't work for them. They may come back to you, and that certainly happened a number of times in our case. So
guys, if you're listening, that's I think that's excellent advice. Like saying no where no is the right answer, and if you want to consider that a sales tactic, or it's a value-led tactic, right? And the most effective form, I think, of sales is leading with value. And Kevin's given an excellent example of saying, you know what, Deepak, sometimes we pitch and we are, you know, it's a good pitch, and it doesn't work out, and for whatever reason, that's okay. Or sometimes we quote unquote win the pitch, but we say, you know what, having had a look at where you guys are at, we think that SEO isn't right for you now. So I think that that's excellent advice. And what I want to follow up with actually is Naveed. You're welcome. Naveed, you probably told us where you're from. Tell us again, because I've forgotten. I'm sorry. I want to see if Kevin's been there or not. I want to have something else to talk about. So the question that I've got now, this is a really good one. You did tell me,
no.
Naveed, where in Vietnam though, my friend? Yes. Where in Vietnam? Probably Hanoi or something. The question that Greener, so you mentioned e-consultancy, right? And you mentioned that, you know what, I used to write regularly for e-consultancy, to name a couple of other publications. And you said you got some leads off the back of that. So I want to ask the question that Saigon, damn. Yeah, good man, Naveed. I was wrong. I am sorry. Greener SEO has asked another quite good question for lead acquisition. Have you found SEO as a good strategy to get SEO clients? So he's specifically asked, have you found positioning your website for good rankings has helped you get clients? Thank you, Anton. Has helped you get clients at all? Is that something that you actually implement, advocate, or advise? I'm generally quite curious about this.
Yeah, I mean, in the early days it did. We ranked #1 for, I think it was for search marketing, and we've ranked #1 for like SEO agencies, stuff like that in the past. And that's worked very well in terms of quantity of leads. The quality is very mixed. You will still, just because it's quite high search volumes and people are making inquiries off the back of it being kind of large intent for looking to hire an agency off of those terms, you're going to get people at all different shapes and sizes. So what we found is pre-qualifying those leads can be quite time consuming. But you do get some good ones out of it. So I would say it works. The thing I think works better is probably more, I mean, if you think of this as a strategy you'd have for a client, we always try and almost bucket the keywords into awareness, consideration, conversion. So conversion being your branded terms, consideration being you're comparing that service or product versus someone else. So SEO agency is something where people would be searching for an agency, but they don't particularly have one in mind. What has worked better for us is probably more awareness. So if there's a typical challenge, so you want to do a site migration or href lang implementation, content marketing, digital PR campaigns, etc. If someone's got a specific challenge they're searching for, and you've got a informative blog piece or article that you can attract traffic from, straight away, although you're trying to educate people, that you're showing it off your expertise, so people will read that. And quite often we've had inquiries that have come off the back of, oh, I read that article that you wrote about this. We have that as a problem for ourselves at the moment. Could you help us with that challenge? And it's just much more focused and targeted, and also it's less competitive because people have found you and they're making a inquiry because you've already answered that question. So you're standing apart from the crowd straight away due to the fact that you've showcased your expertise in that area, as opposed to it being kind of a bit narrower. And even if you rank for SEO agency, typically the type of people that will do that search and make inquiries will click on the top 5 or 6 listings and make inquiries elsewhere, and you'll end up in a competitive
pitching process, basically.
Process. Yeah, I mean, you will still land clients and win, but it's not going to be there on a plate for you. So yeah, I think it's finding out what works. But the more focused and granular you are, I feel like the more specific the inquiries you'll get will be, and they're probably more focused around what you want them to be. And then you'll.
Oh, got it. Okay, no, brilliant. So guys, I hope that you caught those elements. I think that what's interesting for me on the basis of what you said is that I agree that trying to rank for SEO agency London as an example, or even WordPress SEO agency or Shopify, you're going to be going still through a competitive pitching process, because they're going to probably, if I'm looking for that search term, I'll probably maybe copy paste the same inquiry and send it off to 4 agencies and see what response I get. And you get put into a pitching process. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because it's still a good process to be part of. But when you look at very specific sections, and this builds, Francisco, I think it answers to a degree your question a little bit. So Francisco Pereira, I think Francisco Pereira, where are you from, my friend? So the question he's asked, and I think you've kind of answered it in a way, is that how do you then pick the best niches to get clients. And you know, when or whether you're it's quite an interesting one, because whether you're conducting an inbound or an outbound strategy, how do you determine, right, let me go after these types of clients? Let me go after, like, how have you built your kind of ideal client avatar? And then what do you do when you want to launch a marketing initiative to try and go after that kind of ideal client? If at all, because I know that a lot of your business comes in through good referrals.
I feel like over the years, we've had to revisit what is it that we're good at, where are we strong? Like, win rates are really important, because you could pitch 10 times and lose, or pitch twice and win 2 if you get that right in terms of your positioning and your targeting.
I've got to interrupt you. Rank Sunshine is such an awesome name. I absolutely love that. It's like Francisco and Clemens, you guys are geniuses. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but I saw that and I
No,
completely stopped listening to what you were saying. I was like, what a good name. So you're talking about revisiting your client avatar, buddy.
Yeah, so I think just in terms of niche, I feel like, again, that's something we fell into, and you get there through, it's more case studies and track record. If we've done a great job, and certainly in the early days, we did a lot of work in the travel sector, and we had one very strong case study in particular for a brand called Audley Travel, and they were local to me in Oxfordshire. I spent 1 day a week for a couple of years working with them.
What about the case for the person who comes and says, you know what, Kevin, I'm still at a stage where I'm trying to decide, and I've got a case study, let's say, but you know what, it's maybe not a case study. It's not an industry that was great for me. We got a good result in the travel agency. We worked with you know, Booking.com, but they were really difficult to work with. So what do I do now? What's your advice to someone who's not yet at that stage where they are happy to, you know, go with that similar type of client?
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for sure that you don't want to kind of narrow your focus too thinly. I mean, just take coronavirus right now. If all of your clients are in the travel sector and they're not spending money, that's a risk to your business. You can be in a situation where you have some clients that are proportionately larger than others, and again, that's a risk to the business. I feel like there's definitely an argument of trying to spread that risk as much as you can. But
so don't niche.
Well, maybe not. I don't know, but I think there's certainly for us, our big niches are travel, retail, and finance. We do work outside of those, but typically, I feel like those are our niches for a key reason. We have a working. An area is quite lucrative. We generate, I don't know, one of our clients in the retail sector, we generated a 90% uplift in organic revenue for them last year, which is worth millions. So if you can do something and put a pound symbol next to it,
you're doing really well.
It's going to be quite highly received.
Well, I wanted to build up on one of the things that you've asked, and everybody, I would love for you to, so for all of you agency owners, Rank Sunshine. Okay, so a couple of questions. Please write down the name of your agency in the comments. That would be brilliant. The second thing is that I would love everyone also to answer, how has actually your business suffered or shined as a result of the coronavirus? Because you mentioned travel, Kevin, and one of the questions that Sergey has asked is, how have you, if at all, been affected by COVID-19? I'd love to get your commentary on that, Kevin. And Sergey, I'll answer this one as well after Kevin. Kevin.
I think there's a couple of answers to this. One is from a business perspective. It's no difficult in some ways, no different in some ways to other kind of instances in the past. So, I mean, I started a business in kind of 2006, 2007, coming into a recession, etc. And it's kind of at that point of time, I probably didn't even realize what that would mean in terms of a dip, because if you're starting, the only way is up. But having then experienced kind of downward turns in the market, since then. Certainly over the last year or so, Brexit has caused a lot of people to freeze budget as opposed to reduce it. I would say in a lot of cases, it's a case of not getting too carried away in the good times, but also trying to make the most of the good times as yeah, kind of trying to make the most of that, but also not getting too carried away and over investing, so that when things perhaps don't go as well, you have a bit of a buffer and you know what to expect, so you don't have to react too badly. I think there's a very good story in the book Good to Great, which is about Southwest Airlines in the US, which I think they were the only airline after 9/11 that didn't make redundancies, for that very reason, that they didn't push as aggressively as they could have in the good times. They held back a little, and then when the bad times came along, they were much more prepared and agile and able to adapt, as opposed to just kind of going with the market in whatever direction it went. And I think you, as a business owner, you have to be more mindful of that. And certainly some of the decisions we've made, not around coronavirus, but I can see that it's put us in good shape now, is things like, actually, let's just invest in what's important. Let's have a scalable model so we can deal with clients if they need a big content campaign for 3 months, but we don't overinvest in fixed costs and overheads. So there's decisions like that that I don't think I would have made when I started, because certainly I learn from mistakes. Like, you get things wrong and then you realize, okay, let's do it better next time.
So what I really like about your answers, actually, to be honest with you, Kevin, is that one of the biggest things, guys, you know, a couple of things. So the first thing is that over time, you'll see that there'll be issues, whether globally financial or globally medical, that can, you know, temporarily, and this is the important point, temporarily, you know, interrupt your business. And in those times, talking about the business case is a good reminder to, you know, think about what you're doing to shore up your defenses. You know, have you know, when, if you've done good business, then it means that, you know, in the good times you will get referrals. You know, Kevin also mentioned about, you know, the e-consultancy and the content writing and being found for specific use cases where he'd been, you know, where they've been solving problems. Then you got the case study with a 90% uplift for his retail client. So the breadth of how you build your agency, I think, is gonna, you know, really see you through. And you could just tell basically from Kevin's reaction that, you know what, definitely there are challenges like this, but over time, you know, it seems like challenges will come and go. And before I come on to the next question, sorry, Kevin, you're gonna say something, I think.
No, I think you're right that actually the challenges change in some ways, but there's never anything that's completely new as a situation.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Kevin, sometimes I don't know if there's any background applications running, but sometimes your laptop freezes. Just so you know, whilst you're having a look, I want to answer this question for myself, guys. It's okay. So, guys, my business has been significantly affected by COVID-19. We've lost our 4th client today in the last 30 days, and I'll go through. Yeah, I'll go through each of the different use cases. So I can walk you through it, but I'll also talk about why there's some positives that have actually come out of this. So the first one is I've got an import-export business who are based in China. They pretty much straight after the new year said, look, we're ceasing anything that relates to marketing immediately. Second client was a hair transplant clinic that are based in Budapest. They had a lot of their business that came from Italy. That they said, we sent all of our staff home. We might be out of business. The third client is a travel company based in London who've just been funded, but they now are not getting any bookings at all from holiday makers for central London. So they said that, look, we're putting everything on hold. And the fourth company is a wholesaler who sells party gifts, balloons, etc. And they said our main buyer, who are events companies, are now not buying anything from us because every event everywhere has been cancelled. So they have also cancelled, but paused. But the good thing, and to follow up with Sergey, I think that you mentioned that proposals were being paused. We're having similar issues where, you know, we a month might generate we'll generate maybe on average about 15 leads a week that turn into a couple of clients a month. We are now generating 30 to half. We're doing less than half what we normally see in terms of what the sales team and the people they're talking to. So the good thing, or no, rather, let's ask it. Let's ask Kevin. In a situation like mine, Kevin, what would your advice be to someone who feels that, Kevin, these things are outside of my control, my business is being decimated? What do we do? How do we survive?
There's a couple of things. I think one is perspective. We decided yesterday to let everyone work remotely. My view is very much a view of what we were saying earlier with saying no to proposals if it's the right thing. Is you have to play the long game. It's if we try to, one example is there's a pitch we were supposed to go to tomorrow, and I've never pulled out of a pitch before, and I'd always try and do it face to face. And we've said, actually, no, we're going to put our team first, because if we win that pitch but our team get coronavirus, it's like that's just a ridiculous sense of priorities. And I feel like in this situation, it's very much health is wealth. Like you have to be in. You have to put yourself first before your business. You have to put your people first in your team before your own profits. And you will have an element of you need to scale back. I feel like as an agency owner, the stuff that, again, this probably relates to a lot of people, you fall into the industry because you're good at a craft. I was good at SEO, and then I just kind of grew into running a business. The stuff that you're not good at is, how do you financially cash flow forecast? How do you deal with HR challenges, et cetera, all of the stuff that you have to learn on the job, because it's a really important part of how you grow a team and keep people engaged and keep the company alive through economic crises, etc. But I think it comes back to, kind of what are your values? What are you trying to get out of things? And accepting that, okay, well, you're going to have some times where it's harder, but as long as you have an approach where maybe you can be a bit leaner in those times, you're not always fighting short-term growth, but you can scale back and you can scale up as you need to. I feel like that then puts you in good stead.
Talking of scaling back or scaling, depending upon how you're looking at it, I know that Kevin K, you just asked a good question. And I want to kind of broadly ask. So the question that Kevin asked, which was, do you? I mean, of course, I think that Kevin, briefly, COVID-19 for remote working is going to be huge. It's going to It's going to do good things in a weird way for remote working, because there'll be a lot of agencies and companies that are forced to cope with today's current environment. And I want to build upon this relates to scaling an SEO agency. You said that you recently decided to have everyone work from home anyway. I think I even saw it like on a recent kind of I saw it on a Twitter update. Now, do you, the current medical situation aside, what are your thoughts on building a remote SEO agency? Because you also said at the same time that you normally always pitch face to face. So I'd love to get your thoughts generally on that, on that process and what you did and just where you see it going, and what your advice is to anybody who's thinking about, well, I need more staff or I need a team.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I can tell you, we've just come out of a 5-year lease on our office, which was quite expensive for what we needed. And during, I'd almost say like the last year of that, I've contemplated, do we go fully remote? I've spoken to the team quite openly about what would they like to do. And in the end, I think the decision from consulting with the team and just thinking about myself in terms of other agencies is, if you start today, there's no reason in theory why you couldn't be a remote agency, but I do think face-to-face is a lot more powerful. If you're having a video conference for a pitch, for example, you don't get the face-to-face reaction you could get if you were, it just doesn't feel kind of the same as if you're in person. That said, a lot of people, I think, myself included, probably do their best work when it's an individual project and you can just focus and get stuff done. I think having a mix is really key. So what we've done actually for 2 years is we've had a work from home Wednesday. This is treated as a day where I find it useful myself, and I always try and treat the team as if I think this is what I should do, and that's how I've decided on some of the coronavirus stuff. Do I feel comfortable in going to this meeting, etc., etc.? And if I don't, then I shouldn't be sending the team. That makes no sense. The same with working from home. I find it
to clarify, because I just wanted to be sure that I was following the last part. You came out of the 5-year lease, and you had the question in your mind, what do we do? And you have work from home Wednesdays. What's practically happening within your business now? Is it that Deepak, our team, we've got some team who everybody works from home, or Deepak, we're moving to a smaller office because some of the team have gone remote? Like, what is happening now with Resignal in terms of the structure?
Yeah, so I feel like we've now very much got a hybrid. We've moved to a smaller office in a WeWork building in London.
Brilliant.
So we have a co-working space. We still do flexible working of Wednesdays, and we're actually doing that as an optional second day, typically on the Friday, but being flexible around client meetings. So quite often, sometimes a client will request Friday, we're flexible around that, but we try and keep 1 to 2 days a week as optional from work from home. Some people prefer the office, and so we're not saying don't come into the office. We're saying you have the option, if you would like to work from home, to do it. If you want to get out of the house and you work better from the office and you prefer that, it's there, use it. And I think it's almost in these days, the office is the base of which you work from, but we have some people that are full-time remote. We have some people that are freelance. And some people that do a mix of work from home, anywhere from kind of 3 days a week to.
It's really interesting, that process, talking about the hybrid element. And Naveed says he absolutely agrees, by the way. Sergey says that, well, we're lucky because we can work in an industry where people get that it's a digital service. So you can, of course, work from home. And I think that what I have found interesting is that, I set up our agency with the desire to be completely remote and the desire to actually not ever meet any of our clients. What has happened, though, is my head of SEO, Samir, based in Vadodara, India. There's an office of 7 people in India now. They decided to do an office independently, and that I've seen has become a huge help. And then some of the best business that I've won has been, coincidentally, I had the approach of saying I'd rather not meet people. But what's changed is that, coincidentally, one of the clients that we reached out to happened to live a mile down the road from where I am in Fulham, in London. He's gone on to refer so much business because we'll just go for like a breakfast meet or a coffee now and again. And that face-to-face element has really been interesting. So guys, to answer, like, I have to, ironically, having set out to do the opposite of what Kevin originally did, I now would be like, you know what, hybrid, it's what we do. What I thought we would do versus what we do. Yeah. And it sounds like it's
because there's relationships.
Better for everybody.
Once you've met someone face to face, that relationship is so much easier to strengthen. And I feel like having that mix of, you don't need to see your clients every day. You don't necessarily need to see them every month, but you need to have some form of element. So one of our clients we went to dinner with earlier in the week and stuff like that, where it's sometimes the stuff outside of the work that means, same with our team. If our team can share a drink and have a laugh together, when something's gone wrong, I almost feel like at the moment we've got a culture where people could almost like take the mickey out of each other a little bit, but in a nice, we're on the same team, we're trying to help each other, and it's not taken too personally. and you can't have that when it's. I mean,
it's difficult when it's remote. I mean, when it's completely remote, it's very, very difficult. And it sounds like you've got a really good environment there. Guys, we've got 6 minutes left. So two things. First of all, as you've seen every now and again, do search Semrush LinkedIn on YouTube. You'll find a video that's just put out where I'm talking about LinkedIn and some of the stuff. So have a look at it. We'd love if you watched it, all of it, and made a comment. That'd be absolutely brilliant. That's just the first thing. The second thing is we've got 5 minutes left of Kevin's time. I want you to put into the comments your most important questions, anything you want to get asked. We've got 5 minutes, you know, before we do wrap things up. I would love to hear all of the questions that you have got for Kevin. Let me just wait literally 30 seconds, Kevin, see what questions come in, and then I'm gonna ask you something. So that's good. The guys are okay. So here we go. So Naveed has asked a question, and guys, keep the questions coming in, and I want you to give your answers in just a minute or two, so we can fit as many questions as we can in as possible. Kevin, Naveed is asking, can you be can you run the firm? Can you be the agency CEO and the client relationship manager at the same time? Can you do that, Kevin? What's your take?
I can't. I think you can at different sizes, and so actually I have at different sizes, and you have to be in many ways a role that fits everything. So the face of a company, the clients want to see you as a result of that, etc. But there's a really good book which is called Traction, and there's one called Get a Grip. They're both kind of the same sort of series by Gino Wickman.
So, Anton, if you can write that in, Traction and Get a Grip. Traction and Get a Grip. Please continue, Kevin.
And it's the essentials of it is you have a visionary role and an integrator. You might call it kind of strategy and operations if you like, but it's you normally have it's a bit of a left brain, right brain. You're good at one thing, you're not so good at the other. As we touched on earlier, I've always been quite strong at the bigger picture thinking, and I'm very strategic with clients. I'm not a project manager at all, and if you talk to me about the day-to-day basics, you're talking to the wrong person. And as soon as I can identify those weaknesses,
I'm going to go on to the next question, Kevin, just because I want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. So, guys, Kevin has said that he cannot. He used to. So to answer your question, Naveed, I guess it is possible, but it does change depending upon your size. Once you go beyond a certain client size or client delivery that's needed, it probably becomes more challenging. 33 big money. 33 big money. I like your name, 33 big money. I'd love to know where you're from, and we'd love to make the big money that you do. He's asking, would you say you're more stressed now than when you started your agency?
I've always been quite good at managing stress, and I wouldn't say I've always been perfect at it by any means, but am I more stressed now? No, I feel like actually almost leading on from the last question, I've embraced my weaknesses, which I think is actually a really good exercise in terms of self-reflection of what is it that I'm not good at? How can I hire people that are better at that than me? And I feel that at times when I've been stressed in the past, it's when I'm taking on too much and I'm doing stuff that I don't enjoy. And
I've got a question.
Yeah, but I saw there's a quote.
No, sorry. Please tell me the quote. Actually, I'd love to hear what the quote is.
Oh yeah,
I'm a big fan of quotes.
No, the quote I think was from Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, which is like you should be spending your time editing as opposed to producing. And as a leader of a company, I don't want to get too kind of in the weeds of specific challenges when I should be supporting the team and coaching them and teaching them how to deal with this, because then that makes my life easier and it makes the whole company move much more coherently.
Okay, brilliant. Guys, I think that, I mean, for me, those are excellent answers. I think that, you know, recognizing what your strengths are and recognizing what your weaknesses are is a big thing. And then playing on the basis of that is really, really important. We are coming to the last couple of minutes of the show, and I'm going to finish up with, and this is a really important question for all of you that are listening. Kevin, in 60 seconds, if you had to start everything again today, it's March the 12th, 2020. We're in the middle of global meltdown. I want to start an SEO agency. Kevin, what do I do?
So I think looking back at what I did, my first client was myself. And what I mean by that is I marketed myself by learning what I was doing and talking about it to the point that I would generate leads. And I feel like if you can treat yourself as your biggest client in the early days, and you can promote yourself and share your learnings and do good work, but try to amplify that and make sure that you can use that as a strength, that's the way that you can kind of start to attract new business and grow off the back of it. And I think for me, that's the key thing, is how do you, it's almost like put your own air mask on first sort of thing, of how do you try to make sure that you have a strong basis for what you're doing. It's a great learning opportunity that you can then use for your other clients. And then that's how you grow onwards and upwards.
Guys,
there's always challenges, but you fix them as they come along.
Guys, Kevin, I absolutely love that. That answers the previous question about, you know, client acquisition. Treat yourself, everybody, as your own client. Do practice what you preach. You can become your own case study, and that gives you in this game, actually, in the game of SEO, there's quite a high number of SEOs who are not doing much in terms of their own brand or their own website or their own brand SERP, and you kind of, you know, run an audit of your own website, run an audit of your own brand, and make sure that you're not the dentist who's got terrible teeth and is advising about how to get pearly whites, because the guy smiles at you and you're like, buddy, I can't take advice from you about my pearly whites. So, Kevin, well, for everybody watching,
yeah, definitely.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. Please do make sure that you do YouTube, Semrush, LinkedIn. You'll find me talking everything about LinkedIn. And Kevin Gibbons, Resignal, everybody. Just Google Kevin Gibbons, Google Resignal. I did Google that. He's got his game in place, so you will find him. Buddy, listen, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course, it's good to be involved.
Brilliant. Right, everybody, I will catch you on the other side. Bye now.